Welcome back to another episode of Dentistry Talks. Our guest today is Dave Bryon, a former aviation executive who will discuss his transition into the sector, the key business lessons he learned from his time at airline bmibaby, and how these insights can be applied to dentistry. We'll also explore the delicate balance between cost control and service quality, the importance of challenging and evolving business practices, and how Dave has navigated work-life balance throughout his career. If you're looking to push boundaries in your own dental practice or gain fresh business perspectives, this episode is for you. Hello.
Hello, Gabby. How are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you. How are you? That was going to be my question to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got there first.
I'm good, thanks. Are you all right?
Yeah, really good. Really
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here today.
It's lovely. Thanks for the invite.
I'm particularly interested in you and what you've done because, disclaimer, I don't love aeroplanes.
Right.
I know that's not all we're talking about today,
Yeah.
but obviously you spent quite a large chunk of your career in that space, and I'm going to try to keep this conversation for the audience and not for me, although I can't promise that I won't try to get you to explain how planes work and why it's totally fine to get on one and not be nervous. But I would love for you to kick off just talking about your career and how that's looked, just to kind of set the scene for our conversation.
Oh, well, firstly, Gabby, don't worry. It isn't, humans have not evolved to be in a pressurised metal tube at 36,000 feet.
Yeah.
It doesn't come natural to our psyche.
Thank you for saying that.
So, everybody gets a little nervous because you're not in your natural environment. You're out of your comfort zone. And if you actually, I love flying. I absolutely love flying. And there are people that love flying. But there are a lot of people that it just doesn't sit right. And that's perfectly normal. But if I could point out one fact to kick things off, as you and I are talking here now and as people are watching this, there are 1 million people currently in the sky.
Incredible.
In aeroplanes. There's something like 100,000 planes currently up there in the sky with about 1 million people currently flying. So, there are 5,000 aeroplanes in the sky over European airspace, so just as we speak. So, it is a very safe industry.
Absolutely.
And you go to the airport and you find your plane, you check it's got wings and engines, okay, and you think it's been sat there for a week ready for your flight, but almost invariably that aeroplane has been off, somewhere in Europe before you.
Yeah.
But it is an incredibly safe industry. Yeah.
Yeah, that statistic I think both reassured me and terrified me in equal measure. They have big numbers. Right. I do love what's the website that you can go on and look at all the planes in real time. I do quite enjoy that.
Well, there's quite a few of them now where you can actually track. Yeah. And I must confess, though this is going to sound really nerdy. I live in the Midlands in Burton-on-Trent, and literally my house is under the transatlantic flight path. Okay. So on clear days, not that there've been too many of them recently, you can literally see that transatlantic route. And I will get the mobile out and go, that's Heathrow.
That's what this is.
That's Heathrow, San Francisco. That's American
How
Airlines.
often are we talking?
Well, do you know what? It depends. It depends. I just find that whole fascinating.
No, to be fair, I do.
In that, we call them corridors. We fly airplanes in corridors. In that corridor, there are planes going all over the world with 200-300 people on each plane. It's
it's actually quite incredible, to be honest with you.
And I'm going to ask you this, and you've got to be honest.
Yeah.
Do you like people watching? I'm assuming you like.
Oh
everybody likes
yeah. Everyone's nosy.
You will not get a better place than an airport lounge.
Oh, that is. Do you know what? One of my favourite games when I'm at the airport, because inevitably, because I am a little bit of a nervous fly, I do tend to get there earlier so I can have a drink. Because whether that's right or wrong, it's what helps. Right, because I'm like, I'm just gonna enjoy this. Usually vodka because it hits a bit quicker, and I love looking around and being like, where are all these people going? What are they doing? And I do think I don't mind the airport. A lot of people love flying but don't like the airport. I'm almost the opposite. I actually don't mind the airport, but it's the getting on the plane. But it's how we see the world and we understand other people. So it's
And it's a crazy industry. I know we're going to talk about the industry as we go through this, but it is a ridiculous industry. Very tight margins, very tightly regulated, very mature. We hear a lot. We watch Dragon's Den a lot on TV and see these entrepreneurs pitching their ideas that have come up with in their lounge or their bedroom, or what have you. But aviation is such a mature marketplace and so tightly regulated and capital intensive. If we wanted to set up an airline today, Gabby Airways. Let's set up
Love
Gabby
that.
Airways. Okay. We'd probably need about 150 million US dollars.
Oh my gosh.
And about 2 years to get through all the regulatory processes to be before we could actually go on our first flight. Where would we go? Where would you go first flight?
What a question. Where would I go on my first flight? I've only been to one country in Asia. So I went to Vietnam a couple of years ago, which was an absolutely incredible trip.
Yeah.
Really enjoyable flight, actually. To be honest, I prefer long haul because I feel it's a bit more stable.
The plane's a bit bigger.
Yeah, it is because I went on a really small one recently to Dublin. We had an event out there last year, and I turned up at Edinburgh Airport thinking it was going to be just a kind of normal bog standard 3-3 setup.
Yeah.
It very much wasn't. It felt a bit like one you wind up, and it had propellers. And I thought, oh
Turbo
gosh,
prop,
yeah. Well, I'd gone to a Greek island in May, and I'd gotten one of those, and its takeoff, it was like a catapult, it just kind of pinged and went.
Yeah.
And whilst it was a really amazing experience, I thought, this just feels wrong. So to then have to do that again, I was like, oh God, you've got to be kidding me. But where would I go? I probably would go to maybe Japan.
So your first route, Gabby Airways, is London. You're Edinburgh based, aren't you? So we'll go Edinburgh, Japan.
Yeah.
I think they're quite like that, Edinburgh. I don't think they have a direct route.
So I'd have to get 2 flights.
There we go. Yeah.
Oh, such a shame. I was hoping it'd just be one. But thank you for being here and giving us a little bit of a sort of context there to the aviation industry and kind of some of the challenges, I guess, that you kind of had to face when this was a space that you were occupying. So yeah, tell us about that.
So we were. I came to aviation via a side route. Actually, I've got a degree and a PhD in geology, rocks, which is no use to man nor beast, and then was given the opportunity to go and work in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, which I did for 5 years, and got involved in e-commerce. And all of a sudden, the e-commerce from a business perspective was just starting to grow, and airlines were starting to sell seats online. So prior to 2000, most of it was sold via call centres or travel agents, intermediaries, via these big things called global distribution systems. And then all of a sudden, airlines started to realise they could sell direct.
Okay.
And they started developing these websites. And British Midland, which was a very established, traditional airline, based in the Midlands, but with a big presence at Heathrow, the second biggest airline at Heathrow behind British Airways, said, "Look, we want to start selling our seats online. We don't think this online, selling of seats is going to grow very much."
Okay. Yeah. We can laugh about it now.
But we want to have a website that allows us to sell seats and just see what.
So what year are we talking?
This is 2000.
2000. Okay.
So I came back from America to work for British Midland, as it was then became BMI. And we put this internet booking engine, as it was then, to sell seats, and we shifted it from selling no seats to 1% of all sales. So it didn't really make much difference.
No.
And then all of a sudden, meanwhile, the low cost carriers, Ryanair and EasyJet, were starting to move from call centre based to web-based sales. So the shift was going
in that direction.
if you remember EasyJet's, you may not, you're way too young, but EasyJet's first flights had the 0800 number down the side of the plane.
Perhaps. Yeah.
And then it shifted to their the main.
I see. So call if you want a flight, and then go on the website if you want to fly.
Through our call centre. Yeah. They were still selling it direct, so you were cutting out all of the intermediaries, which was a fair chunk. And then it went to the website, which you cut out the call centre as well. So in just back end of 2001, an airline called Go came into East Midlands Airport, which is where BMI had a big presence. And BMI said, right, we need to set up a low-cost carrier. We're a traditional airline. We need to compete with these guys. And so there was a few of us that got involved in the early setup of this concept of bmibaby. And what was clever about it, I think, was the senior management at the time of the parent organisation realised that, to get a low-cost carrier, you couldn't have the operating costs of the traditional airlines. So, the people that came over lost their final salary, pension, their company cars, all of those things went. And we went to a very basic low-cost model for operating. But there was the potential for bonus if you delivered on your target. So rather than, you had to earn it rather than it be given to you. Yeah. And so a lot of people said, I'm not interested in that. I'm quite happy where I am in the main airline. Yeah. But there were a few of us that thought, here we go. Let's give it a go. Let's give it a challenge. And so the airline bmibaby came about. and we took all the Boeing 737s. And we started off with a couple of bases, so East Midlands. Then we went to Birmingham, Manchester, Cardiff, and Durham, Tees Valley. And we ended up with 21 aircraft, 5 bases, carrying 4.5 million passengers a year.
Wow.
And within 2 or 3 years, we were turning over 200 million a year. So it was a bit of a quick roller coaster.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I started off looking after the e-commerce side and the commercial side, and then after a couple of years became managing director. Yeah.
What an experience.
Yeah, it was great fun.
I bet. I can tell just the way you're talking about it. It's a period of your life you feel very passionately about.
And you've got to take it. So when you're managing director, you're what they call in the eyes of the law the post holder. So the Civil Aviation Authority, which is the governing body, your name is on the operating certificate. Yeah. So you're the one that will go to court. You're the one that will go to prison.
Oh, that's nice and reassuring.
If anything happens.
Fine.
And they remind you of that constantly at the regular meetings.
Yeah.
So safety is paramount. That's the first thing, first and foremost. And it is with every airline. But after that, the way you operate and sell is where the difference comes to the main airlines. And I think if we look at what EasyJet and Ryanair especially, I think, EasyJet started with a blank sheet of paper. Ryanair transformed from a traditional airline into this low-cost carrier, and Michael O'Leary went and spent some time with a guy called Herb Kelleher with Southwest Airlines in Texas, who were the original low-cost carrier.
Okay.
And this low-cost phenomenon wasn't just one thing they changed. They looked at every revenue line and every cost line and said, if we tweak that, if we do this, if we do the other, we can transform this industry. And what was interesting was all the main airlines said, well, that's never going to work.
Interesting and satisfying.
And now actually they're trying to back a lot of these processes into their operating models. So they've adopted a lot of it. I think the classic one that some of the people watching this will resonate with, if you go back 20, 25 years and you wanted to fly, let's take Heathrow, Edinburgh, for example. Yeah. You couldn't get a day return or a there one day, back the next day for less than £300 because it was bought as a return fare and it had rules and conditions on it. A bit like the rail industry used to work to. It's changing now. But you had all these different fare rules and they were cheaper if you went on a Friday and came back on a Sunday because they knew you were leisure. So all of these different rules, but they had to, in a single would cost more than a return. Weekend, all crazy. And what the low-cost carriers said, I'm not really bothered about who's going or why you're going. I'm going to sell it individually, point to point. So one way, Heathrow to Edinburgh. If you want to come back, that's great. You buy another ticket. And as long as I fill my plane and I take this total revenue through that plane, then I'm in profit. And I'll share some of the numbers with you. And the other thing they changed, which was really fundamental, was a lot of the older fare types you could change. So people didn't show because they knew they could just change the ability to change was built into the fare rules. So you paid a bit more and I could change. So I'm not going to go today, I'm going to go tomorrow. So the plane may have seats empty. And so they started overbooking to compensate for those they knew or they thought were not going to show. What the low-cost carrier said, it doesn't matter. You buy your seat on that flight. If you don't turn up, that's it. I know that seat's been sold. I keep the revenue. In fact, to be honest, I'm quite happy if you don't turn up because I then don't have to pay the government departure tax. I've taken your money, but I don't have to pay the government anything, or the airport. So they changed, and they're just two examples. This point-to-point, shift-to-point fares. And the other one that will really resonate is they unbundled the fare. Okay. So we're going back to our Heathrow Edinburgh return, £300. Not only, you got your seat, you could take your baggage with you, your checked-in baggage, your hand baggage, you got a newspaper, you got a meal on board, you got to choose your seat beforehand where you wanted to sit. All of that was included. And what the low-cost carrier model said is, look, we'll fly you from A to B. We'll do it safely, but the rest of it, if you want anything else, you have to pay for it. And so it was almost like the shopping list. And if you look at Ryanair now, and these are public domain figures, their average yield, if you look at last year's accounts, was something like, so for a sector flight, their average yield was, 42, 43 euros across 180 million passengers. But their actual yield from every passenger for the ancillary revenue streams was €15.
Right. Okay.
So, a crazy amount of that total revenue, a third of it almost, is down to this ancillary revenue stream that they make them, and that's where they make their profit.
Yeah, I can, just from what you're saying, it's evolved so quickly in such a short period of time. I mean, I don't know how you kind of keep up with those types of changes, but there's a lot of parallels with that with the dental industry as well, and that is changing constantly with the onset of new technology, the mindsets of patients. There's a lot more awareness of, I think everyone calls it the Zoom boom. Pandemic seems like a long time ago. A lot of people say we shouldn't still talk about it, but it had a profound effect on dentistry where people thought, oh my gosh, I would like to get my teeth done. And we're still seeing the effects of that now, aesthetics, things like that. And it's changed so quickly. So there's a lot I can see there's actually, whilst they're wildly different industries, there is huge similarities in the way that dentistry operates now to 20 years ago.
I think and I talk at a lot of conferences. Very rarely are the aviation related. They're often in other sectors. And the two phrases that you brought there are challenge and change. And in aviation, people that work in dentistry may go, well, look, this industry is very mature. Everybody's tried everything. This is the way it works. When somebody joins, this is the way we do it, because this is the way we've always done it. And that's very much what happened in aviation. And we said, well, this is the way it works.
Yeah.
And then you get these disruptors that come along.
Yeah.
And you can't do it in a bedroom. You can't set up an airline in a bedroom. You have to have capital. So, it's the same and all these sectors operate in their own little silo without looking at other industries and outside the box. And I'll give you a classic example. When I became managing director, we recruited a marketing director. And the gentleman we recruited, his previous job we recruited him from was Cadbury's. Okay. Never worked for an airline before. And people say, well, that's a bit weird. He goes, no, it's not. Because the seat, if our seat that's flying from Edinburgh to Japan tonight leaves with nobody sat in it, the shelf life of that seat has gone. We can't sell it again. So we wanted to think of an aeroplane like the FMCG sector, fast-moving consumable goods. We wanted, once that plane takes off, the shelf life of that product, that seat, is gone. So we brought Dave in to look at how that mentality. We didn't want to know about flying. We didn't want to know about how an airplane operates. We wanted to know about how to sell. How could we take his learnings from Cadbury's and FMCG and the marketing strategy and bring it into aviation? And it's the same with any sector, dentistry as well. Yeah. Look around, get these outsiders. I'm not talking about consultants, but be prepared to look and see how you can do things differently. Don't assume that your industry has to work the way it's always worked. You've got to be prepared to challenge it. And it won't be one thing, it'll be lots of little things. Yeah. And then be prepared to change. And they're two very different things.
I think the word disrupt is really key there. I think it's definitely something that's used a lot in dentistry as well. And with the onset of things like AI and technology really advancing, and robots even carrying out dental procedures now. I don't know if robots flying planes were probably a long way off of that. Oh gosh, no.
Okay, we'll talk. Let's just touch on that.
Yeah, please do. Okay. Please do. It's going to scare me.
Would you, Gabby? Would you get on an aeroplane that had no pilot and was fully automated?
I'm going to be very honest with you. I know that you're going to have an answer for me, but I'm going to say anyway. I absolutely wouldn't. Yeah. Which is really odd, because actually, I appreciate that the margin of error is probably far bigger for a human as well, because we have the emotion, motive, and a lot more autonomy in our behaviour and our thinking. So I know that's the wrong answer, but I still wouldn't.
Yeah, and that's human instinct again. Yeah. It's the same. We trust people, and if the pilot said to you, "Hi, welcome to a flight. We're travelling at 550 miles an hour, 36,000 feet. By the way, I'm on the ground running this thing from an office."
I would not be happy about that.
Yeah, there would be people knocking on the door.
Open up the cockpit, nobody in there. Yeah.
But ironically, or sadly, most incidents that happen are human error. Yeah. A combination of human error. In other words, it's more than one factor. If it's one thing goes wrong, people can normally work it out. If it's two or three things, then computing them all is very difficult for the
Yeah.
human brain. But pilots are very much like surgeons and probably dentists.
Yeah.
In that, they are very, very objective individuals, and the training we put them through, first officers and specifically command, captain, they're put through tremendous pressure scenarios in flight simulators.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
Just to see how they'd handle
Yeah.
it, because they are ultimately in control. And if everything's flashing, in the flight deck, all the what would you do? And so you have to have that objectivity to even be able to pass your exams. And the same with surgeons. It's you see them and dentists. You see them performing these operations, and we sit there like this.
Yeah, I know.
They go, well, of course you do. That's what you do. You do this, that, and the
Yeah.
other. They take that human element out of it, which is a great skill. Whereas we go, oh my God, I've never seen my dog again, or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. So for you then, keeping on this topic of AI, do you feel that it's something that this kind of advancement in technology should be embraced by dentists and other industries?
So in aviation, and then we'll look over, I think, planes and flights are more automated than ever. That, we have autopilot, they can in theory fly themselves.
Yeah.
Why are we doing that? We're not trying to reduce the costs of pilots. That isn't an issue. It's to be more efficient, more fuel efficient, fly better routes to save fuel. A fuel is 25% of an airline's cost base.
Okay.
25%. So on our old BmiBaby turnover of 200 million, 50 million of it was fuel.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, which is a climate change
Yeah.
campaigners'
Well, it's not-
golden number. I mean, they'll ram that down our
Yeah.
throats. But we want to save fuel.
Yeah, of
we don't
course.
want to be spending that
Yeah.
amount of money as well as damaging it. So we're always looking at ways. You probably see now that the planes have what we call winglets on the end of the wings. They've
Okay.
got
Yeah, they sort of stick up. Yeah.
That will save, probably not 1%, but maybe 0.5% of fuel. But it all adds
It all
up.
adds up. Yeah.
So AI is really important for us because it will help improve safety and reduce costs. How that relates to dentistry, again, it's the same question.
To be honest, though, what you've just said actually is what is, I would say the audience would agree with this. It's improving efficiency, and I don't know, I don't want to put words in your mouth for the aviation side, but it's not a replacement of the human, but almost a complements their skill set.
Yeah.
And it's that something, that reassurance, I guess, and it just, as you say, safety. Obviously, patient safety is a number one priority when dental professionals are working. They want to make sure the patient is safe. They want to make sure the procedure is done correctly, and that the outcome, essentially, which I guess the outcome with aviation is to land and take the passengers to their destination.
The definition of a good pilot is the same number of landings as takeoffs.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess that can kind of be applied in dentistry as well. So I was really interested to see your kind of position on that.
I guess, and I don't know, have we got to the point where a filling can be?
There are robots now, that robotic systems that can. There was a story we wrote about robots performing implant dentistry and that, but it's not mainstream. You're not going to go into your local practice now in Burton and have a robot do your teeth. So
I'm going to say to this. I'm on this one here. I'm going to say to Christina Hughes Knowing, who I went to see on Wednesday, that I promised I'd give her a set. Your job's safe. But I guess when we're flying, nowadays the pilot will do the takeoff, flip it into autopilot, and do the landing. I guess if we're looking at dentistry, it's the dentist will identify what needs doing, set everything up. Would I be happy? It's the same question of would you?
It's a mindset change, and a lot of the AI in dentistry at the moment is it's not actually the procedure itself as such. So, for example, there's note taking, so that you can record the conversation you have with the patient, for example, and it will transcribe it for you. So it's a lot of admin in dentistry, which I think people can forget sometimes. You've got to type your notes out. That there's a lot of softwares out there that can do it for you. There's other softwares that can bring images up of the patient's mouth and highlight where there's caries or tooth decay, and it just kind of validates. Sometimes, there is subjective dentistry at times. I'm not quite sure what this is. I'm not quite sure. And having this sort of software that can kind of back you up can be really reassuring for people. But as in any industry, there's a long way to go for it being fully integrated, fully accepted. I think that's it. And it's a big topic, isn't it? You know, and we're going to see a lot more of it in everyday life, I think, as over the next few years.
I think the other aspect is we're talking about the operational side, operational efficiencies.
Yeah.
And the other side, if you look at the revenue generating side, I think the commercial models that dentistry operates in now, you know, are another one that could be looked at by looking at other sectors. I'm on a payment plan, for example, and I go a couple of times a year, and then I get a discount off whatever else I need doing. So that's already a change.
Yeah.
But there's the overlay of the National Health Service, which obviously we don't have in aviation, you know, on top of that. So I don't know the commercial models for dentistry, but I would urge people that do to have a look at other sectors and see if it could work. Be prepared to challenge the way you do things and make those changes.
How important is it, coming back to that disruptor phrase that we use, but how important is it that people challenge the norm in business?
I think it's really important. Some of the examples that I would say, obviously, you know, the ones that I know are in aviation, which are huge and brilliant. And they'll continue to do that. But, you know, if we look at when I was growing up, and maybe a lot of people watching this podcast will remember the likes of Blockbusters and W.H. Smith.
I missed that.
And HMV.
Yeah.
So HMV, if you wanted any music when I was growing up in the 80s, you went to an HMV store and you'd put your records that you bought, or your CDs, in an HMV bag, and all your other stuff would go in that HMV bag because that you wanted to be seen
I went to HMV,
as being an HMV shopper, brand association.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you look at how well they were positioned, and Blockbuster in the video world, to move into the digital age, and they didn't. And look at them now, and they were taken over by upstarts, you know, that came into it. Spotify, iTunes, Blockbuster's Netflix, Love Film was the one before that.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
that were just literally the DVDs were being sent still on the post, but all of those, you know, those brand leaders didn't look. They weren't prepared to challenge what they were doing. They were top of the pile, going, "We're great." And there was somebody else going, "There's a better way of doing this. There's a better way of doing this." And it was the same in aviation. And dentistry is the same. If you don't think, if the dentists out there watching this, if you don't think there is somebody somewhere thinking, "Oh, I think I can do this better than you guys," then, you know, you're mistaken, because there will be. Yeah.
That's good. I think that's what keeps things evolving, really. You know, challenging the norm is important if an industry is going to move forward. And we talk about the service we're providing. Obviously, it's important that the people who are your client base are getting the satisfaction and getting what they pay for. But also, at the end of the day, it's a business as well, and that sort of profit side of it is also crucial. It's that cost control versus service quality balance that can be quite hard to strike sometimes, I think.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, in aviation, safety is paramount. That's your starting point. You don't.
That's good to hear.
Drop below that. You're not legally allowed to. You know, it's
true.
That's your starting point. But then you see, customer service is a really interesting one, and this is my opinion. But Ryanair have the best customer service policy of any airline, and I'll tell you why. Okay, this is controversial because customer service is about managing the expectation level of the customer. So if you fly on Ryanair and everything they've said to you is, "We're safe, we're cheap, the rest of it's going to be fun and games," okay, all right, then when you arrive at the airport within, you know, the window they said they were going to do that, and they do that. I don't know if they still do it.
They do. I love it when that happens. Yeah.
Then the first time you do that, you'll go, that's better than I thought it was going to be, because they'd managed your expectation level. It's 100% safe. Okay, wonderful safety record, as all airlines have. But the rest of it, they've managed your expectation level. You compare that with some of the flag carriers that promise to be the world's favourite airline or the world's best airline, which is human instinct. You want to pitch your product as the best product. That's what you want to do. As dentists will, we are the best. We are the best, because you want to do that.
Of course.
But what you've got to do is manage the expectation level of the customer.
Yeah.
And if you over-deliver on that, then the customer goes away going, actually, that was better than I thought it was going to be. And it's the same with dentistry. And I don't know if you have equivalents of low-cost carriers, and all of whom is safe and will do the job.
There's definitely different. So obviously, as you pointed out earlier, there is an overlap which is different to aviation with the NHS as well, and there's a lot of difficulties in that area at the moment. That's a real common theme in dentistry.
Yeah.
A lot of people turning away from it for reasons that are not selfish, in the sense that it's entirely motivated by money. Actually, it's really hard for a lot of people to work within that model. It isn't working. Essentially, the dental teams do not actually even get anything from it a lot of the time. Both be it profit, be it their own mental well-being, be it just general stress and the morale in the practice environment. So there has been a huge shift towards private dentistry. There are definitely different levels within that private sphere of quality of service, and you get these really, really high-end practices where you'll go in and it'll be like a full experience where you can have, cups of tea, coffee, really beautiful interior design and really comfortable, and there's a real emphasis on the entire experience. And then there'll be others that you go in, and again, I'm not saying safety, very similar. There's a lot of regulation in dentistry, and at the end of the day, you've got to keep your patients safe, because there is an extreme amount of fear among dental professionals of litigation, essentially, of having people say they didn't do this right and sort of being dragged through this quite grueling process. So it's quite comparable in that sense, but again, very similar. Patient safety first, and then anything above that, if you want a holistic experience where you're going to go in and come away feeling like you've been at a spa, that's there. If you want to go in and just get a bit of a clean up and a little check up, and it's relatively quick and it isn't as slow as other places, you pay in very much that's priced in. So I'm assuming that's quite similar.
It is in the long haul market,
yeah,
certainly, because you have your different cabins.
Yeah.
You've got your 3 cabins.
Yeah,
traditionally
true.
now you've got economy and premium economy and upper. If you look at a typical long haul, it used to be business and first, but a lot of that's rebranded now. It's just a rebranding term. In the short haul, in the medium haul sector, it's still pretty much one cabin. So it's one price for a seat based on supply and demand. So that price will vary. It's another question that people often ask. Do they know I've searched that route? Because then when I go back and search it a day later, the price has gone up. Do they know that I'm now thinking more like I'm going to buy, so they put the price? No, they don't know you. It's basically always changing. So the price of that seat will vary based on the demand and supply profile. So somebody could have booked 5 seats on that flight in that intervening, which means there is less product available, and they'll manage that. So the revenue management, the yield management is amazingly complex now. And they will literally, that demand curve builds as you get closer to the day of operation. And if they've got it right, then you'll fill the last seat at the last available time. And if you look at Ryanair's accounts, then you can see that their load factor is in the mid to high 90s for every flight.
Wow.
Across the whole network.
Yeah.
Normally a low-cost carrier would be aiming to get a 72% and above occupancy rate across the network. Then you sort of break even. That's the tip point. Anything over mid-70s% load factor, 75% of the seats sold, is then pretty much profit.
Okay.
There's a little bit of cost, but not a lot.
Okay.
You've paid for your fixed costs, and that's good. So, you're always aiming for that 75, 85, ideally.
There's a lot of plates to spin in this,
It is. And that's why Ryanair is so good, because they managed to get this, from a business perspective, they managed to get this 96% load factor across.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Is staggering. Staggering.
What would you say has been your biggest challenge in your career?
In and out of aviation?
Do you know what? Whatever.
I think honestly, it's look, running the airline was brilliant, great. You can get a little bit wrapped up in it all, and a little bit cocky, I think. And so, getting the work-life balance, I think, is something I didn't really pick up on.
Okay.
To my detriment. You're in this, the airline's growing, everything's great, you're flying around, doing this, that, and the other, and I think work-life balance is getting that right. And I still see it now. I see people, and I don't know how the dentistry industry is in terms of work-life balance and the impact of people's mental health.
Oh yeah, it's hard to get that right.
Yeah. And there's this drive to be successful and and compete and you can't. It's very hard to do that and keep your life balance in check as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when I stepped away from aviation and started looking at other things, I thought about going back into business again. I decided not to. I decided I was quite happy, just doing media stuff, and
nice.
And I got involved in the after dinner speaking circuit and the business speaking circuit. I've got a routine about the airline industry, funny stories from the airline industry. they're all, don't worry. And then a bit of stand-up comedy and a bit of event comparing and hosting, and I thought, actually, this is better. I've got two girls, and and it allowed me to manage my work-life balance. But that. You have to put your ego to one side a little bit, and you have to hold your hand and go, "This is what I want to do. This is what I want to do."
Did you find that hard initially to get to that conclusion that actually that was the right direction for you?
Yeah, you go from having all the spotlight on you and people around you and running this and this, that sense of power.
It's addictive.
It is, and it fuels an ever-growing ego. And then you need to, there's a couple. We can talk about it if you want, but I lost my son before I got involved in the airline industry. Well, actually, as I was getting involved in the airline industry after we moved back to the UK, we lost Charlie to meningitis, and I just threw myself into my work. Literally, that was it. It was 100 miles an hour. The airline suddenly got the bmibaby thing rolling, and I didn't really deal with it. I didn't deal with the death of my son, and then things unravel a bit, and you have to step back and go, right, what's important? What's important in life?
It's a good question to ask, I think, and it's one that's not always the easiest to see through. Like you say, when you've got a lot going on, and it's not easy. It's a distraction. Grief and all kinds of things that happen in personal lives. It's not always easy to come face to face with. And if you have a job that you clearly enjoyed as well, you can really immerse yourself in that. And it's hard to work out sometimes, I think, whether you're doing it for the right reasons or whether actually there's a side to it and you're like, is the motivation right here? And it sounds like you've got to that point where you can look back now and you think, actually, that wasn't the most healthy way to go about it. But that's we all do that in some way or another. Everyone's got different stories, and I think it's retrospectively now you look back at that period and you can recognise that actually you weren't doing too great.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I just covered a lot of things over. I just parked them and said, I don't need to worry about that. I can handle that. And I don't think that was particularly healthy for me. I don't think it was particularly healthy for the people I was around in my personal life. And then you get a chance, you get an opportunity to look and see and reevaluate what's important. And I think really COVID's helped actually in that respect.
Quite a few people
it's given remote working, spending time back at home.
You slow down, don't you?
You do slow down. It was interesting coming down this morning on the train, and seeing everybody going into this commuter hub that's London. It isn't the same as it was 10 years ago. It's quite clearly different. It's evolved.
100%.
And that's good. That's good for people. And as long as there is the debate about productivity in terms of office and home, and it depends on the sector. I can see the pilots flying remote. I'm going to work remotely today. I'm just going to do it from.
Honestly, give it a few years.
You could actually see that.
Yeah,
that'd be quite funny.
Yeah, funny.
Maybe
I
not,
would say
maybe not
differently.
funny. Maybe not funny.
I know you mentioned there that you've sort of kind of transitioned then into this new period, I guess, kind of new chapter. I like that
Yeah.
phrase actually, where you
Yeah.
do a lot of speaking.
Yeah.
You do comedy.
Yeah, I do
which is
comedy, yes.
yeah. I mean, how's that?
Yeah, that's funny. Comedy's great. It's a really tough industry. So the after dinner speaking, funny routine about the airline industry. That's good. That's. But then the stand up comedy. I started my stand up comedy at the very lowest level.
Yeah.
And that's where I still am. No, I'm really joking. But you do a lot of pubs and clubs and stuff like that. And I don't do that many. I do 1 or 2 a week. And it's great.
Yeah.
It's so raw. And to see people that are coming through now, people, you see them progress through the comedy circuit. A couple of guys that I started out with doing the stand-up that are now, one of them, Scott Bennett, who has just done the Raw Variety show.
Incredible.
And Live at the Apollo.
Yeah.
And, is now looking at doing his own tours and, will continue to grow. But you look at how hard he's had to work. 6 nights a week, sometimes 2 gigs a night, all over the country.
Yeah.
It's so tough.
Yeah,
it's so
absolutely.
Tough. Probably the same in dentistry as well.
Yeah.
To get to, everybody sees that these dentists driving around in, big cars and what have you and stuff. But it's tough. You've got not only the qualifications, but
no, it's true. And I think actually it has shifted. I think that I'm not going to sit here and say there's not people who have really lovely cars in dentistry. Of course there are. That would be ridiculous to say so, but there's a lot. Whilst you can make good money in the industry, there are a lot of people who it's actually not as it was once perceived, and I think it has evolved. And I think, as with anything, I don't know if this is a challenge that you've seen in any areas that you've worked in throughout your career, but the public communication surrounding dentistry is really off, and it's really misunderstood and not taken, I don't think, as seriously as other healthcare. It's easy to neglect. You think it's a tiny bit of your body, but the impact on your entire well-being goes far beyond what you see or what you feel. And it's a miscommunication, I think, is a key part. Something that really needs to improve, I think, the communication, in dentistry, to the public, and what it's about and why it's important. And I can imagine there were some challenges there as well that you've probably faced. Yeah,
I think, so we can talk about the airline ones in a minute, but the dentistry ones, so as a consumer, I would say they've done certain things well. So they've done the right toothpaste well. They've done the electric toothbrush, which I've, kicking and screaming finally gone to. And when I went last week, Christina said to me, "Oh, actually, they're pretty good." Yeah. Okay. Well,
I'll get one.
But I understand what you're saying about that overall picture. So, I've got to have some fillings done, and you get really that much to just chuck a bit, but you don't realise what you're paying for. It costs money to turn the lights on and train these people and provide, the whole environment around it. And I think there is that communication message. In aviation, it was quite interesting because what the low-cost carriers did is said, we can fly you for 10 quid from, Stansted to Malaga for 10 quid. Yeah. And, the public will go, right, how are you doing that then?
Yeah, it's true. It
cost me that to go across London on the tube.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
How are you managing to get me there? Hopefully there are some more people on this flight that have paid more than that. Okay. Yeah. Just because the fuel's going to run out
It's funny, it's true. Yeah.
So actually the skepticism was right. Must be cutting some corners here if they're doing that. And it's not. The bottom line is, if you take a plane with 200 seats on, let's say, they will sell X percent, 10, 15% at that £10 fare, let's say, and the rest will be progressively higher. So your overall revenue from those 200 seats, because they're filling 95% of them, is substantial. But they can advertise these cheaper rates because they know there's only a certain percentage of the seats at that thing. And you do feel like saying to the person, did you pay more than that?
That's it. Nudging them all. I think when you get on a plane, I'm at that point now where I know for a fact that we've all paid a different price at some point. Because, some people could have booked it. I mean, a really good example is a flight I booked to Paris quite last minute, and I think it was £100 return with EasyJet, I want to say. And I know that perhaps, I mean, it's not necessarily, I'm right in saying it's not necessarily the later you leave it, the more expensive it gets, is it? It
is.
It is?
Oh my gosh. That is the general aim. The later you leave it. So it didn't used to be.
Okay.
So in the old days, they'd used to put them at a price, sell them, and see how they were doing. And if they weren't doing very well, they'd do a promotion.
Fine.
Or if there was X% left in the last month, they would say, right, slash and we want to fill the plane.
Yeah.
It's all automated now.
Okay.
So the price will literally adjust in real time based on a supply and demand curve. Okay. So if you're above that curve, in other words, you've sold more seats than you would normally on that flight curve, sales curve, it will put the price up.
Okay.
To sort of quash demand or shift demand to another flight.
Okay.
If it's below that curve, i.e. you're a few seats lower than you should be, it will adjust and reduce it slightly to get you back onto that curve.
So I would have paid more than someone who booked it perhaps 5 months beforehand. Yeah. So I think it's just one of those things. You know.
But here's an interesting one for dentists, because this happened to me yesterday. So keep on going back to Christine.
I love the shout out.
I know, yeah. I'm got to have 2 fillings done, which I didn't do last year.
Okay.
Sorry. And I'm booked in to have them done in 2 weeks. Or maybe 3 weeks. Anyway, I got a call from the dentist yesterday saying, we've had a cancellation for next Thursday. Do you want to come forward by 2 weeks? No, I can't.
Okay.
Because I've got an event on. But, and I don't know how they do this, because that happens quite a lot. You get cancellations. If they'd said to me, or if they'd said to somebody, bring it forward and reduce it by your price by 20%, 25%, I don't know what the number is, then would you have filled that? Quite probably, because if they can't fill that, then that seat, the shelf life of that seat has gone. So I don't know how they manage cancellations, but by incentivizing, giving, because then but there you go.
Yes, so it's food for thought. Actually, it's food for thought. And I'm not a dentist, so I'm not dental trained. I write, I do things like this. So I know a fair bit about the industry and the profession and how it works and the people in it. But managing a business, unsure. But I completely understand what you mean, and it is the same that analogy there you're using, well, or in the case of aviation, the literal, if you do not fill that seat, that opportunity has gone. That stands the same for that day's going to go and it's not going to come back again. So if you don't fill that appointment, that is an opportunity lost, in the same way that if a plane takes off, you can't get that opportunity back again. So
the 2 questions would be, if you get a cancellation or a no-show, you see, in aviation, no-shows don't happen anymore because you've already paid for it. So you've paid in advance for your seat. If you don't show up, it doesn't matter. I've got the money. If you don't show up, or if you want to change it, then you have to pay a fee to change it, and it releases that seat again. Now, the fee to change it is often more than the amount you pay for it. So you actually say, forget it. I'll just book another one.
Just book a new one.
Just book a new one.
Yeah.
But I don't know how it works in dentistry, because that seat, that dentist chair, needs to be earning as much revenue as it can.
Absolutely.
And in order for it to earn revenue, it needs somebody sat in it. And therefore, if you get cancellations, how do you manage the penalty clause within reasonable customer satisfaction levels? And how do you manage the replacement to come into it? And the way to do that is to incentivize people further down to come forward.
No, thank you for that. That's really, really interesting. Really good.
As I'm going home on the train, I'm actually going to market that idea.
I love it. Dave, I've got one more question for you, which is, whatever part of your life or your career this can apply to, anything that you want. What is the one bit of advice that has stuck with you, that you've received throughout your life?
I'm naturally an inquisitive person, and I think that's why my analogy is I've done lots of things in my life, and it's just because I'm quite inquisitive. I'm always walking down that corridor, pushing every door open, just having a look in, being a bit nosy. I think being inquisitive and asking questions, it's got me in a bit of trouble occasionally, but for the most part, it served me well.
Okay.
And And I always, there's the old analogy, you've got two ears and one mouth. Listen to, if I meet somebody that's got a story to tell or from a different background to me, I will just throw questions at them because I want to learn and understand. So another one, employ people that are smarter than you.
Okay.
Really good. I'll give you one final story. When I became manager, we employed a commercial director. So I was commercial director and became managing director, and we employed a commercial director from EasyJet. And I'm going to message Steve and tell him this, Steve Burns. And he came in, and I was commercial director. And there's a tendency when you employ somebody to backfill you that you tell them how to do it and you pass on the knowledge and Came and said, right, Steve, we'll talk about how we've done everything and the commercial side, and I can help you. And he goes, Dave, I've been watching how you do it. It's crap, okay? I'm going to do it much better. Now disappear, off you go into your little office, do what you're supposed to do, and I'll sort it out from here.
And it worked.
And it worked.
It worked.
Yeah, it's true.
I guess in order to implement that thought, that level of thinking, way of thinking, that you do have to kind of allow your ego to get a bit bruised, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, always have people around you that want your job.
Okay.
It keeps you sharp.
Perfect.
And they're good people. Yeah. Employ smart people is really good. Employ smart people. Challenge. Always be prepared to challenge the norm.
Dave, thank you so much.
Thanks, Gabby.
Thank you.